Welcome to Beth's Happy Home, and welcome to my basement. This is my sewing room today because the Stevensons have a family reunion coming up, and it's kind of family reunion tradition to have matching t-shirts. Having matching t-shirts at a family reunion serves the purpose of when you're in a public place, it's easier to identify who's in your group. We're going to have 20 children and 12 adults at this reunion. And so I decided I wasn't going to have anything printed on the t-shirts. I was just going to have them be a distinctive color. And when they came, so this is the color I chose. It's a bright lime green. And as you can see, they're just big and boxy, kind of shapeless generic t-shirts, and which is exactly what I anticipated, but they're a good heavy material, so they'll hold up well. And by the way, I ordered them online from a bulk t-shirt distributor, and they only cost me about $2.50 a piece. And so I was able to get a bunch of extras and have one for everyone, and have some, if there's a difference in size than what I anticipated, there will be a t-shirt to fit everybody. But I didn't really like the idea of giving the little girls, I have 9 little granddaughters, and I didn't want to give them just a boxy t-shirt to wear because they look so boyish. And so I decided to make them into little dresses. And I've done this before. I got the pattern years ago when I was making little dresses to send to a third world country where the girls only wear dresses and they don't have access to sufficient clothing. And so this is a really simple design that works well and is inexpensive, but they actually turn out really cute. So I'm going to show you how it's done. I can make a t-shirt into a dress in about 35 minutes. I'll speed it up for the sake of you watching, and feel free to ask any questions if you have them. Hopefully I'll be able to do a good enough job of filming it that you'll be able to follow right along. All right. I have already washed and ironed this t-shirt, and I measured them all of the ones I was going to make into dresses, so that I was sure that they would be long enough. Now, this little girl, this is Lizzie's dress, and the irony is that she told me she wanted to wear a t-shirt. She did not want to wear a dress, but I figured when all the other little girls have dresses, she will hopefully want one too. And if not, if she wants to wear the t-shirt, then there is a t-shirt that will fit her. So if you're watching this, Lizzie, never fear. But Lizzie's measurement from the top of her shoulder to the bottom of her knee is 30 inches. And so this is the t-shirt that fits her. It's an extra, oh no, it's just a large. And so the length is the way you determine what size of t-shirt to wear. This large t-shirt is 30 inches long once it's been washed. And then her chest is 24 inches. And so when I cut it down, I'm going to make sure that I have more than 24 inches across the chest. So I'm going to start by cutting off the bottom of the t-shirt, this part of the t-shirt. Make sure it's really flat first, especially right there. And I'm going to cut right under the armpit, right in the armpit. And I'll cut from both sides so that I can get this really straight. And if you want to put a ruler across there and get it, make a line, if you feel like you need that extra guide, go ahead and do that. I have a pretty good eye. I should be able to match it up pretty well with that other cut. Okay, so this is going to be the skirt of the dress, but we'll just set it aside. But it's already hemmed. Note that the bottom of the t-shirt's already hemmed, so the skirt is already hemmed. Now I'm turning this inside out, and I'm going to cut the sleeves off. And I'm going to do it by just cutting right along the stitching on the inside of the sleeve allowance so that it doesn't cut off any more than just that seam allowance. Now I'm going to cut the underarm seam on the sleeve because I'm going to use one of these sleeves to make a pocket. Now for the other side. So this is what we're left with, and this is going to become the edge of the sleeve right here, and then we're going to sew in to shape the bodice like this. Here, I already did make the mark in the middle. Okay, so now just to double check, 4 inches from that mark, 4 inches from that mark, so it's nice and even. So now you want to allow at least 4 inches for the armhole opening, and so you measure from the top right here down 4 inches, and then you need a seam allowance too. So, and you don't want it to be real tight on their arms, and so I'm going to make a mark 5 inches down from the top, from the shoulder seam, at cutting point. So, this is going to become the side seam. I'm going to cut right here, and then I'm going to flare it out to meet this line right here. And this is going to, so this is going to be the armpit right there. But it's going to be a raglan sleeve. And then I will just cut right on that line. So this will be just right for Lizzie. Then I'm going to just use one of these that I just cut off as a pattern on this side, so I don't have to recreate that line. Sorry if my shoulder's getting in the way. I can't tell because I don't have a cameraman today. He's got something else he has to do. So I'll just follow right along and cut on that line. Okay, that is going to function as the basic bodice. I'm going to also take a tuck right here in the seam, or in the neckline, just to give it a little bit of shape, because the neckline tends to be too big for a little girl. It looks weird because it's so loose. And I've found that the easiest way to do it, to solve that, is simply to take a tuck right there and stitch it down. But I'll show you at the sewing machine. Okay, so I'm going to start by flipping this right sides together for starters. Okay, now we're ready to stitch this bodice, and it's quite easy, and you actually kind of finish it as you go. So the first thing to do is at the top of the shoulder seam, you have this little cover that they've stitched in for comfort, and you're going to pull that back about a 1/2 inch, and because you cut this sleeve off right here, you should be able to get about a 1/2 inch of play from that seam, and then just cut off that little tab. Whoops. On the sleeve edge, not on the, this is the neck edge, do it on the sleeve edge. So just pull that little tab back and clip it off, and that way that's just to reduce the bulk as you make this hem. So you now have this open flat thing, and for this small armhole opening, it's easier to hem the sleeve before you stitch the side seam. So I'm just going to turn this over about 1/4 inch and stitch along there to finish that shoulder seam right there. It kind of wants to roll, so you have to kind of keep a little bit of, you have to keep kind of guiding it so that it doesn't roll up. And I actually lost it for a second there. I'm going to have to redo that. On this back edge, I went off the edge of the, it rolled out of my way. Oh, I'll pick it up right there. There we go. Okay, do the other side exactly the same, but better. So the sleeves are finished. Now, with right sides together, we're going to stitch this side seam on this little bodice. So there's the side seam. I'm holding it upside down. I'm going to put a couple of pins in it just to keep it straight. Okay. Okay, so the next thing to address is that this little bodice is finished, ready to be sewn to the skirt, except you've got this big neckline that's a large adult neckline, and so you want it to fit better on a little girl and not be so big. So what you're going to do is find the midpoint on the front of this ribbing and mark it. And I already marked it off camera by matching the shoulders, folding them together, and then finding this center point like that. And then I marked it. So find that center point right there on the ribbing and mark it very clearly. Wrong side out again. And I'm going to fold this midpoint in about 3/4 of an inch. So I'm going to fold it like that and make a pleat by folding that ribbing nice and flat. And I'm going to fold the whole top so that it's straight down like that. And then I'm going to stitch down about an inch below the bottom of the ribbing. Okay, so I'm going to stitch in about 3/4 of an inch, and it's kind of right where the ribbing begins to curve up to go up to the shoulder. So it has kind of the bottom part that's somewhat flat, and then it curves up, and so you want it right at that point, matching the edges of the ribbing, and then sew down into the garment, into the bodice, about an inch below the ribbing to make a pleat. So now I have a pleat right there. And I'm going to cut off right here above the seam allowance on the, you can kind of see what I'm doing, I hope. I just want to get rid of this extra bulk that is the bottom edge of the ribbing. In fact, I think I can probably just push it up and push up the bottom edge and then pull it out by cutting it off a little bit closer. The main purpose of that little step is to get rid of some of the bulk, because you don't want it bunchy. So you cut out as much of the ribbing as you can. Okay, so now we have this little L-shaped notch, and the stitching goes right down to here. And so now I'm going to flatten this little pleat, just flatten it like that, open up this seam allowance right here so that it looks like that. And I'm going to put a pin right here. And then I'm going to flip it to the right side and see where this t-shirt was top stitched along the neck. I'm just going to top stitch again right along that line. So some of it may still be in place. You may not have picked it out that far. But I'm just going to replace that top stitching, and that's going to capture this little pleat on the underside to keep it nice and flat. And redo that top stitching. Because I have this thread matches this color very, very closely, the top stitching, the fact that it was redone doesn't even show. Okay, we've got this little bodice done. This is what the bodice looks like. Rachel is 4, by the way, so she's very tall for her age. You kind of get an idea of how tall and slender she is by this little, how little the dress is. I've marked the middle line right here when I was going to cut the skirt off. And so now I'm going to make sure that the midline on the back is marked. And you can find the midline easiest by just folding the side seams together, and where the creases form, mark them. Okay, so you want to Mark the middles, fold to the middle, fold the side seam into the middle, and then mark the quarter spots. So that's right there. Do the same thing on here. Let me see, which one is the accurate one? This one is the accurate one. Make sure you don't mark them too high so that they are included in the, so that they're going to show. The quarter spot there and the quarter spot here. Okay, so now you have 3 markings across the front plus the side seams, and the same on the back. Then you take the skirt and you do the same thing. Now the skirt is a tube. They don't have any side seams. So you need to mark the sides, and it doesn't matter exactly where you mark them as long as they are evenly marked. So I'm going to mark these sides, fold the side into the middle, and that helps me find the quarter marks. You get the idea, you know how to do this. Okay, now take the skirt portion and turn it so that the hem is wrong side out. Like that. So there's the underside of the hem. This is the wrong side of the skirt. Make sure that you lay it again so that the sides are on the sides, so that the marks are lined up. And then put the little bodice that is right side out inside of this skirt, matching the center fronts and the side seams. So I'll peel this back a little bit to get this laying in there, like that. And then pulled over. So there's the center mark on the skirt, and I'm going to match it to the center point on the bodice, like that, and I'm going to put a pin there. You're just going to go all the way around, and you're going to match every one of those marks. So there's the quarter mark right there. Where's the quarter mark on the skirt? There it is right there. Of course, the skirt is going to be bigger. There's going to be a gap. But don't worry about that. That's going to be a cute fashion detail. So match the sides. Pull the side seams, if you stretch them just a little bit on the bodice, will lie flat. And so that one just popped open the way I want it by giving it a little bit of a stretch. So all the way around, pinning those marks together. So this is the way it's going to look, with the skirt part poking out, forming these loops all the way around the bodice. Then when we go to stitch it, we're going to stretch this as much as we can to get the skirt to kind of create a gather. Rather than doing a gathering stitch, by just stretching it, it will pull it into a gathered effect. And in this one, there's enough of a difference between the size of the bodice and the size of the skirt that I won't be able to stretch this enough. And so I'm going to end up with a little tuck at each pin, but that is not going to matter. Make sure that you keep the skirt nice and straight, as it perpendicular to the edge of the pressure foot. right, I've got this pocket all pressed under. Just a little note, the best way to do a pocket is to turn the corner up about 1/2 inch and press it, and then turn the sides in each about 1/4 inch so that the little corner right there is nice and clean. And that's, so this pocket is ready to go. I want it under her right hand, so I'm going to put it on the right hand side of the dress and get it nice and straight. Just off the center. And then we'll pin it into place at each corner. Like that. Try to get it straight. Okay, we are ready to stitch this pocket on. Here's the hem that was the original hem of the sleeve. And we'll start at the top and just do a narrow little edge stitch all the way along. Now I'm going to sink my needle down in the very upper edge of this pocket, and then I'm going to take the pin out because the pin folds it a little bit and it makes it harder to get it really flat, and that's what you want. Now this is just going to be 1/8 inch top stitching to stitch this pocket into place, but you want it, when you do the top edge, make sure you go a little tiny bit, maybe 1 stitch off the top edge of the pocket just to make it really secure. When you get to the corner of the pocket, right there, you sink your needle all the way down, lift your presser foot, and turn the whole garment. And then you put the presser foot back down and go on stitching. You can see I'm removing the pins before I get to them so that I can hold it with my finger and it doesn't get distorted or folded by the pin. Alright, now she's got a cute little pocket there. And I will trim these threads. My family reunion project to make dresses for my granddaughters is all done. And so I'm going to show you each of the dresses because I want to tell you how the size of the original t-shirt relates to the size of the dress that you can make out of it. So this one is an extra large man's t-shirt, and I use the sleeve fabric to add that waistband right there, and this makes about a size 12 dress for a little girl. And this is Michaela's. And this one is Emma's. I started with a medium youth, and it ends up being about a size 4 dress. And this one is Adeline's. I started with a youth extra small, and it ended up with a 12 to 18 month size dress. Closer to 18 months, I think. So we'll go on. There will be a little bit of overlap. I haven't paid too much attention to which is which. This is a youth medium, and this is Karina's dress, so that's going to be about a size 4. And this one is Grace's dress. I started with a medium adult size, and I ended up with about a size 6. Then we've got, this one is Rachel's dress. I started with an adult medium, and there again, this one is a size 6. Let's see how these compare. Yeah, those are the same. So, next we've got Lizzie. This started out as a large, an adult large shirt, and ended up being a 6 or 7 in the length. And last of all of these that I'm going to show you is Kate's dress, which is an extra large. And here again, she has the inset from the sleeve fabric, and I used pocket from another dress's sleeve to add the pocket on theirs, because I wouldn't have had leftover fabric had I not saved it from a different t-shirt, because I used the fabric here in the waistband. And there is one more, but Brooklyn already has her dress, and it's the same as Adeline. It's the smallest size. It's an 18-month. And I tried it on her, and it looks really cute. And I'm sure that it's going to add a nice touch to our family reunion. And if you have any questions at all, feel free to ask me in the comment section. And I thank you for watching.